I saw the other day with Alex Eala, that's been a talk, and which is understandable. There's some.
Here's the moment.
Where am I serving?
Federer and Novak. Greatness, recognizing greatness.
Yeah. Tell you what.
Your kids, Tara and Stefan, they're at home. So how do they support you from home? Do they get the permission to wake up in the middle of the night?
No, absolutely not.
Can you tell us about the match earlier? Seems very interesting.
Yeah, it was super fun. My very first mix double.
Alex Eala's first-round match at the Australian Open was more than a tennis match. It was a storm waiting to happen. Imagine thousands of fans streaming in with one singular goal: to witness history. The stadium concourses flooded. Walkways were packed shoulder to shoulder. Security tried to maintain order, but the sheer volume of excitement was unlike anything Melbourne Park had ever seen for a first-round match.
And why?
Because a 20-year-old left-handed phenom from the Philippines had captured the imagination of an entire continent. Organizers underestimated the scale of the moment. Tickets sold out in seconds. Fans from Manila, Sydney, and even Europe converged on the venue. Social media amplified the hype. Every post, tweet, and story acted like kindling on a wildfire. The result? A perfect storm of excitement and logistical chaos. Novak Djokovic, with 2 decades of experience navigating Grand Slam mayhem, was the only person in that press room with the authority and perspective to call it exactly what it was. He didn't sugarcoat it. He didn't offer cliches about growing pains. He said, plainly, that tournament officials miscalculated. That the schedule, the crowd control, the ticket allocation, they simply did not anticipate the power of Alex Eala's draw. But here's the twist. Djokovic didn't frame this as a failure. He framed it as a triumph. He said that yes, the first-round chaos was intense. Yes, the crowd spilled into every hallway and stood shoulder to shoulder in ways that made everyone nervous. But this was proof. Proof that tennis is alive. Proof that the sport can inspire. Proof that Alex Eala is no ordinary player. He leaned into the philosophical point that has already sent shockwaves through social media. The nightmare scenario isn't overcrowding. The nightmare scenario is empty stands, silence, a lack of interest, a slow decay of enthusiasm that can quietly kill a tournament over years. The so-called chaos of Alex Eala's debut? That's the opposite of a problem. That's a sign of growth, energy, and inevitability. Then came the moment that truly electrified the room. Djokovic spoke about Alex Eala, not as a rising star, but as a force of nature. He acknowledged the frustration of the organizers, the exhaustion of staff, and the sheer logistical nightmare, but he emphasized something no one expected. This was bigger than Melbourne Park. This was a cultural phenomenon. A Filipino superstar forcing one of the sport's most prestigious tournaments to adapt. He didn't just validate the hype, he validated the chaos. He said, and I quote, "You could argue, sure, there were mistakes in scheduling. But what does that even mean when you have a young player bringing thousands of people, energy, and hope into the stadium? This isn't a problem. This is exactly the kind of challenge we should welcome. It shows that tennis is alive, that the sport still moves hearts, and that we have the privilege of witnessing history in real time." Pause for a moment. Let that sink in. Novak Djokovic, the man who has literally seen everything on a tennis court, called the logistical nightmare a privilege, a challenge, a dream problem. He turned what critics might call failure into validation. He made it clear that Alex Eala's rise isn't just about points or rankings. It's about representation, inspiration, and the undeniable magnetism of a global fan base. And here's the kicker. Djokovic didn't stop there. He detailed exactly how organizers tried to contain the situation, how they scrambled to reassign staff, and how security measures were stretched to their limits. He admitted mistakes were made, but then he contextualized it in a way only a 2-decade veteran could. The energy, the noise, the frenzy. It's a problem anyone would want if it means the sport is growing, if it means the game still inspires, if it means the players are making history. Alex Eala's debut at the Australian Open wasn't just a match. It was a seismic shift. A 20-year-old kid from the Philippines forced one of the sport's crown jewels to confront the consequences of its own global appeal. Djokovic called it chaos. He called it a miscalculation. But above all, he called it beautiful. And now we are left asking, what does this mean for the future? For tournament organizers, for rising stars, for the sport itself? Can tennis keep up with the explosive rise of players like Alex Eala? Or will the sport need to fundamentally rethink how it manages global phenoms who bring entire nations with them, spilling into stadiums and rewriting the rules of engagement without ever stepping off the court? This is bigger than tennis. This is culture. This is history. And trust me, Champions Tennis family, you have not seen the last of Alex Eala in Melbourne. Not by a long shot. It's Monday afternoon in Melbourne. The sun is relentless, beating down with that distinctive Australian intensity that reminds you why they call it the Summer Slam. The stage, Court 6. Not Rod Laver Arena. Not Margaret Court Arena. Not even one of the larger show courts. Court 6 is an outer court, designed for early round matches, qualifiers, doubles, and players who don't typically draw massive crowds. It's cozy, intimate, perfect for what it's meant to do. Except this day, it was about to explode. Alex Eala, the 20-year-old left-hander from the Philippines, was walking onto Court 6 for her first-round match. And then everything went sideways. Suddenly, without warning, the lines stretched around the block. Thousands of fans, not dozens, flooded the area. Food courts, meant for a quick bite, became overflow zones, packed with people desperate to glimpse the rising superstar. Filipino supporters, tennis enthusiasts, and curious onlookers all pressed against fences, climbed anything they could find, craning for a view of the young athlete who had captured the imagination of over 110 million people back home. Pandemonium erupted. Tournament organizers ran in panic, radios in hand. Security personnel were overwhelmed, struggling to maintain order in an area never designed for this scale of intensity. The situation bordered on dangerous, but there was also magic in the madness. And that's exactly how Novak Djokovic saw it. He wasn't looking at a logistical failure. He wasn't thinking about complaints or overcrowding. He saw history in motion. He saw a player creating an entire tennis superpower overnight. She is coming from the Philippines, Djokovic said at the press conference, eyes lighting up. She's been the biggest ever tennis player from that country. Pause. Let that sink in. Then came the line that would echo across Manila, Cebu, Davao, and Filipino communities worldwide. She's the biggest we've seen. This wasn't a compliment. This wasn't a diplomatic nod. This was a coronation, validation at the highest level from a man who has battled Federer, Nadal, and every titan of the modern game. Djokovic had just officially acknowledged that Alex Eala wasn't just a rising star. She was a phenomenon, and the world needed to take notice. He went further, pointing out the obvious to the flustered organizers. The Philippines is a nation of 110 million people, starving for sporting heroes on the global stage. And Alex Eala is feeding that hunger in a way no Filipino athlete ever has. The overcrowding, the chaos, the sheer volume of fans, they aren't problems. They're proof. Proof that tennis is alive, expanding, and connecting with new audiences in ways the sport has never seen before. Yes, Court 6 was small. Yes, organizers scrambled. Yes, security was stretched to its limit. But imagine the alternative. Empty stands. Half-filled courts. Silence. That would have been the real disaster. And this isn't just about Alex Eala. Melbourne Park is undergoing a global transformation. The Australian Open is now becoming the tournament of the tennis diaspora. The very next day, Indonesia's Janice Jin created her own earthquake, defeating Canada's Leylah Fernandez in a match that felt more like a soccer riot than tennis. The crowd of 3,000 in the ANZ Arena shook the stands with chants, flags waving frantically, and deafening cheers. For the first time, a player from Indonesia felt at home in Australia, supported by thousands of compatriots who made the journey or came from local communities. It didn't stop there. Turkish fans swarmed Court 7 for Xanaps. Brazilian supporters painted entire sections in yellow and green for teenage sensation Joel Fana. The pattern was clear. The Australian Open was no longer just a playground for traditional tennis powers. The gates had swung wide open. This was a World Cup atmosphere, a festival of global tennis passion. And back to Alex Eala. The chaos she caused highlights both the opportunities and growing pains of this new era. Bernard Manins, a Filipino fan who traveled specifically to see her, shared his story. His wife waited 4 hours in the brutal sun to get a seat on Court 6. Bernard himself never made it inside, watching the match from an overcrowded screen in the food court. But did they complain? Did they demand refunds? Post angry messages online? No. They cheered. They roared. Every point was treated like match point for the championship. This is the era of tennis revolutionized, and Alex Eala isn't just playing, she's defining it.